Lieutenant Emma Riley commanded, her voice steady despite the exhaustion creeping into her bones. The holographic battlefield reset around her, its ethereal blue glow casting shadows across the observation deck of Earth's military academy. Below her, a dozen veteran instructors exchanged knowing smirks. They'd been at this for 6 hours straight, and surely this teenage prodigy would crack soon. Major Thompson, his silver hair catching the artificial light, stepped forward. "Lieutenant, perhaps we should call it a day. You've already broken the previous record for." "With respect," Sir Emma interrupted, tucking a loose strand of copper hair behind her ear, "the enemy won't call it a day just because they're tired. Reset the simulation. This time, maximum difficulty." The instructors glanced at each other. Maximum difficulty hadn't been attempted in 3 years, not since the infamous Thompson massacre named after the very same major who'd just spoken. He shrugged and keyed in the commands. The holographic battlefield erupted into chaos. 30 elite AI-controlled units materialized, their tactical patterns based on Earth's most decorated commanders. Emma's resources, a mere squad of 10 basic units. "Your objective," Thompson announced, trying not to sound smug, "is to hold the central command point for 5 minutes against overwhelming odds. Begin in 3, 2, 1. Emma didn't move her forces immediately. Instead, she watched, head tilted slightly, as the enemy units began their textbook encirclement pattern. A smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Lieutenant," one of the younger instructors called out, "you're losing ground fast. Perhaps if you—" "Did you know," Emma interrupted, her fingers flying across the tactical interface, "that the cafeteria served tacos today?" The non-sequitur caught everyone off guard. The AI units are programmed to replicate human commander patterns, right? And humans get distracted when they're hungry. Before anyone could process her bizarre statement, Emma's forces split into pairs. While the enemy focused on the central point, her units began targeting the environmental controls of the simulated battlefield. Within seconds, holographic fires erupted in precise locations, creating a smoke screen that played havoc with the AI's visibility protocols. That's not standard doctrine," Thompson stammered. "Neither is this," Emma replied, directing her units to use the battlefield's drainage system as impromptu transport tunnels, a feature most commanders forgot existed. Her forces emerged behind enemy lines, causing chaos and confusion. In the observation deck, jaws dropped as the supposedly unbeatable AI forces fell into disarray. Emma's unconventional tactics had turned their superior numbers against them, creating a cascade of friendly fire incidents as they tried to target her elusive units through the smoke. When the simulation ended 4 minutes later, Emma's entire squad was still operational. The AI forces had effectively eliminated themselves. "How? How did you?" Thompson couldn't even finish his sentence. "Simple," Emma said, finally allowing herself to slump slightly. "Everyone always focuses on the big picture troop movements, strategic positions. Nobody ever thinks about the little things, like how hungry soldiers get distracted, how terrain features can be repurposed, or how predictable, unpredictable tactics become when everyone studies the same playbook." The victory celebration was cut short by a blaring alarm. Admiral Chen burst into the simulation room, his face ashen. "Lieutenant Riley, instructors to the command center, now." The floating holoscreens in the command center told a grim story. Long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching the outer solar system. The ship's signatures matched no known human designs. 3 hours ago, Admiral Chen announced to the gathered officers, "We received this transmission." The holoscreen flickered to life, showing a towering figure with iridescent scales and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of tactical wisdom. "People of Earth." The figure spoke, its translator giving its words an aristocratic flair. "I am General Vex'thor of the Zar'kanian Empire. Your planet has been chosen for integration into our collective. Resistance is, historically, inadvisable. I have conquered 1,000 worlds across 3 centuries. Your species will be no different." As the transmission ended, Emma studied the alien general's demeanor, the subtle shifts in its posture, the careful choice of words. A smile spread across her face. "Lieutenant Riley," Admiral Chen said, noticing her expression, "you look like you've just found a solution." "Not yet, sir," she replied. her eyes still fixed on the frozen image of General Vex'thor. "But I think I know his weakness. He's got 3 centuries of victory under his belt, which means 3 centuries of people doing exactly what he expects them to do." She turned to face the Admiral, her eyes sparkling with that same mischievous glint she'd had during the simulation. "So let's do something he'll never expect." The Admiral raised an eyebrow. "And what would that be?" Emma's grin widened. "Sir, how do you feel about tacos?" The Zar'kanian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a school of metallic leviathans, their obsidian hulls reflecting the distant light of Sol. Earth's military command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers scrambled to their stations, their faces illuminated by the harsh glow of tactical displays. 17 dreadnoughts, 34 cruisers, and, good lord, over 100 support vessels, Admiral Chen announced, his voice tight. The largest invasion fleet ever recorded. A grizzled colonel scoffed from his station. "Did you expect anything less from the scourge of Centaurus? I heard Vex'thor once conquered an entire star system with just 3 ships." "That's nothing," another officer chimed in. "They say he defeated the Proxima Alliance by convincing half their fleet to surrender just by explaining their tactical mistakes to them." In rhyming verse. Emma, stationed at a junior analyst's console, fought the urge to roll her eyes. "Permission to speak freely, sir." The Admiral nodded, though several veteran officers shifted uncomfortably. They still hadn't gotten over her promotion to lieutenant after the simulation incident. "These stories about Vex'thor, they're exactly what he wants us to focus on. Look at the fleet formation. It's perfect, textbook even. 3 centuries of victory, and he's still using the same tactics that worked the first time." "And what would you know about fleet tactics?" Lieutenant, the colonel's voice dripped with condescension. "I've been studying Vex'thor's campaigns since before you were born." "Exactly," Emma replied, her fingers flying across her console. "And so has he. Sir, I bet you anything his first move will be to send a single cruiser to Saturn's rings, using them as cover for a sensor sweep. It's what everyone expects him to do, so he'll do it to reinforce those expectations." The colonel laughed. "That's absurd. Why would a commander of his caliber?" "Contact a sensor," operator shouted. "Single Zar'kanian cruiser breaking formation, heading towards Saturn's rings." The command center fell silent. Admiral Chen turned slowly to face Emma. "Lieutenant Riley, how did you know?" "Because, sir, the greatest military minds don't achieve victory by being unpredictable. They win by being so predictably superior that it doesn't matter if you see them coming." Emma stood up, approaching the main tactical display. "But that's also their weakness. They literally can't conceive of someone winning by being deliberately inferior." The Admiral studied her for a long moment. "Colonel, please relinquish your station to Lieutenant Riley. As of now, she's our strategic advisor for this operation." "Sir, you can't be serious. She's barely old enough to serve. Age is irrelevant when Earth's survival is at stake," Chen replied firmly. "Lieutenant Riley has demonstrated an understanding of our opponent that none of us have achieved." As if on cue, the main screen flickered to life, revealing General Vex'thor's imposing figure. His scaled face bore the kind of smug satisfaction that only comes from centuries of uninterrupted victory. "Greetings, Earth Command. I trust you've had time to appreciate the magnitude of your situation. I would prefer to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Your unconditional surrender would be the most logical course of action." Emma stepped into view of the transmission. "General Vex'thor, I'm Lieutenant Riley, Earth strategic advisor for this encounter. I must say, your sensor sweep of Saturn's rings was exactly as elegant as your reputation suggested." The alien general's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "A child? Earth sends a child to parley with the conqueror of 1,000 worlds." His laughter echoed through the command center. "Perhaps I overestimated the challenge your species would present." "Did you know," Emma continued, seemingly unfazed, "that human children have an average attention span of about 8 seconds? It makes us terribly impatient. For instance, while you were laughing, we just finished analyzing your fleet's shield harmonics." Vex'thor's laughter cut off abruptly. "Impossible. Our shields are modulating on a quantum frequency based on the mathematical constant you discovered during the conquest of Proxima Centauri. The one you're so proud of, you encoded it into your ship designs. Emma smiled innocently. I learned about that during my morning history class. Right after breakfast, I had pancakes. The general's scales flushed a deeper shade of blue. You dare mock? Oh no, sir. I wouldn't dream of mocking someone of your stature. I just thought you should know that humanity's strategic advisor has the attention span of a goldfish and the tactical experience of a toddler. It should make your inevitable victory all the more impressive, don't you think? After the transmission ended, Admiral Chen turned to Emma. Lieutenant, did we actually decode their shield harmonics? No, sir, she grinned. But he'll spend the next few hours changing them anyway, just in case. And while he's doing that, he won't be focusing on his next attack. Chen finished, finally understanding. You're not just predicting his moves, you're making him question his own playbook. Exactly, sir. General Vex'thor has spent 3 centuries being the smartest person in every battle. Let's see how he handles being outsmarted by someone who still gets carded at R-rated movies. As the command center buzzed with renewed energy, Emma's console lit up with a private message from the Zar'kanian flagship. She opened it to find a single line of text. Your insolence will be remembered, child. Emma's response was quick. Bold of you to assume I'll remember it. 8-second attention span, remember? By the way, your fleet's formation spells out a rude word in English. Totally accidental, I'm sure. It didn't, of course. But she knew Vex'thor would spend hours trying to figure out how it might. General Vex'thor, you have an incoming transmission from Earth, announced his first officer, trying to maintain composure. It appears to be a cat playing a keyboard. The mighty general's eye twitched as he watched the ancient Earth video labeled Keyboard Cat. It was the 17th such transmission in the past hour, each more bewildering than the last. His tactical display chimed with another message, a crude animation of a stick figure dancing to something called Never Gonna Give You Up. 3 centuries of conquest, Vex'thor muttered, and no species has ever employed whatever this is supposed to be. Meanwhile, in Earth's command center, Emma was orchestrating her campaign of confusion with gleeful efficiency. Send him the "this is fine" dog next, she instructed her communications team, and make sure it's slightly corrupted so he wastes time trying to decode it. Admiral Chen watched with a mixture of amusement and concern. Lieutenant, while I appreciate your unique approach, the Zar'kanian fleet is still poised to attack. Oh, I know, sir. That's why I leaked our battle plans an hour ago. The Admiral nearly choked on his coffee. You did what? Well, not our real plans. I leaked documents showing we're planning to defend Earth using something called the Gangnam-style protocol. Emma pulled up a tactical display showing Vex'thor's fleet in disarray, ships moving into new formations every few minutes. His analysts have been trying to figure out what it means ever since. They've repositioned their fleet 6 times in the last hour. A junior officer interrupted with urgent news. Sir, the enemy is launching fighters toward Mars. Right on schedule, Emma smiled. They found our second leaked document about our secret base there. The command center watched as hundreds of Zar'kanian fighters swept toward the red planet, only to find nothing but a giant message carved into the Martian surface, LOLLJK. The amount of resources wasted on the operation was staggering. Vex'thor's face appeared on the main screen, his scales practically glowing with rage. You dare to make a mockery of warfare. Oh good, you got my messages, Emma beamed. I was worried they might have gotten lost in space. By the way, have you figured out what "yet" means yet? Your intelligence officers have been searching for its military significance for 6 hours now. The general's response was to launch a direct assault on Earth's outer defense line. A squadron of his most elite ships moved in perfect formation, executing a maneuver that had won him the Battle of Arcturus. Emma's countermove was to have Earth's ships perform what she called the Macarena defense, a seemingly random series of position changes that, when viewed from above, mimicked the popular dance moves. The Zar'kanian forces, trained to recognize and counter traditional battle patterns, found themselves firing at empty space while Earth ships slipped through their lines. "This is not how war is conducted," Vex'thor roared after losing 3 cruisers to what Emma had dubbed Operation Doge. "Really? I just checked the Geneva Convention. Nowhere does it say we can't defend Earth with memes." She paused thoughtfully. "Though to be fair, I only read the TL Doctor version." As the day progressed, more skirmishes broke out across the solar system. Each time, Vex'thor employed brilliant strategies that had conquered countless civilizations. And each time, Emma countered with tactics that seemed to defy every principle of military engagement. She had ships broadcast Baby Shark on all frequencies during one battle, causing such confusion that the Zar'kanian crews spent crucial minutes trying to determine if it was some form of sonic warfare. Another time, she had Earth's forces retreat in a pattern that spelled out "your mother was a hamster" in ancient Zar'kanian script, causing the general to waste valuable time trying to uncover the deep strategic meaning behind the insult. By the end of the day, Vex'thor had lost 5 skirmishes and gained nothing but a severe headache. His final transmission of the day was short, "What are you?" Emma's reply was a single image, a white bird making a peculiar face, accompanied by the text honk. As the command center prepared for another day of battle, Admiral Chen approached Emma's station. "Lieutenant, I have to ask, is there a method to all this madness?" Emma's grin was downright predatory. "Sir, I'm teaching the galaxy's greatest general an important lesson about humanity. Sometimes the worst strategy is trying to find strategy where there isn't any." On his flagship, General Vex'thor stared at the latest transmission from Earth, something about a thing called Big Chungus. And for the first time in 3 centuries, felt genuine fear. "Ladies and gentlemen," Emma announced to Earth's command staff, "it's time for Operation Epic Fail." She pulled up a holographic display of the solar system, where the Zar'kanian fleet still maintained its imposing presence. "And for this, we're going to need every social media influencer on Earth." Admiral Chen blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "Trust me, sir. Vex'thor has spent a week trying to understand our tactics. Now we're going to give him exactly what he expects, a pattern he can finally recognize." 24 hours later, Earth's orbital defense platforms began broadcasting thousands of live streams simultaneously. Every social media platform was flooded with humans doing the same dance moves, all wearing matching silver jumpsuits. "What is this nonsense?" Vex'thor demanded, watching the displays on his bridge. "Oh, just the latest TikTok challenge," Emma replied cheerfully over an open channel. "We call it the Defend Earth Dance. It's already got 6 billion views. Even our military is joining in." On cue, several Earth ships began moving in formation, their patterns matching the viral dance moves. Vex'thor's tactical officers frantically analyzed the movements, certain they must contain hidden military significance. "The challenge rules are simple," Emma continued. "Everyone posts their dance at exactly the same time. The more synchronized we are, the better our planetary shields become. It's basic quantum mechanics, really. Or maybe it's interpretive dance. I always get those mixed up." Vex'thor's analysts reported finding complex mathematical patterns in the dance moves. The general smiled for the first time in days. "Finally, something that makes sense. These movements, they're a form of kinetic encryption. The humans are using social media to coordinate their defense grid." Emma watched as the Zar'kanian fleet began repositioning itself to counter what they believed was a planetary-scale military exercise. Just as planned, they focused their attention on Earth's main defense platforms, expecting them to be the source of this dance-based weapons system. Meanwhile, deep in the Kuiper Belt, Earth's actual strike force waited silently. Their ships were painted with giant memes and equipped with speakers blasting Sunday Funday playlists, the perfect camouflage against Zar'kanian sensors now programmed to filter out human nonsense. General Emma broadcasted, "I'm legally required to inform you that we're about to start the final round of our challenge. The grand prize is your entire fleet, and you've been nominated as an unwilling participant. Don't worry, we already signed you up for a TikTok account." The Zar'kanian fleet moved exactly as Emma had predicted, forming a perfect counterformation to what they believed was Earth's master strategy. Their sensors were calibrated to detect the complex patterns they'd spent days studying, their weapons primed to target the suspected shield harmonics hidden in the dance moves. They completely missed the actual attack fleet, which had classified its transmission signature as cute cat videos, something Vex'thor's ships had been automatically filtering out for days. By the way, Emma added, did you know that the most popular video game on Earth right now is called Among Us? It's about finding imposters hiding in plain sight. Great game. You should try it sometime. Maybe right now. The general's realization came too late. His fleet's formation, perfect for countering a non-existent dance-based weapon, had left them completely exposed to the strike force emerging from behind Pluto. Each Earth vessel bore a different meme as its identifier, causing Zar'kanian targeting systems to dismiss them as more social media noise. This is impossible, Vex'thor roared as his ships scrambled to reposition. Your tactics violate every principle of warfare. Bold of you to assume we're using tactics, Emma replied. We're just vibing. The strike force, led by a battlecruiser labeled Big Mood, executed a perfect pincer movement. The Zar'kanian fleet found itself caught between the actual attack and the defense platforms still broadcasting dance videos. Oh, and General Emma added as the trap closed. While you were studying our dance moves, we were actually studying something else, your ship designs. Fun fact, if you play Never Gonna Give You Up at exactly the right frequency, it interferes with Zar'kanian shield harmonics. Who knew? The space around Earth's orbit filled with the sounds of Rick Astley as the greatest fleet in the galaxy discovered it had been rickrolled into submission. Admiral Chen watched in amazement as Zar'kanian ships began powering down, their shields disrupted by what would become known as the tactical rickroll maneuver. Lieutenant, he said quietly, did you really figure out their shield frequency through social media patterns? Emma grinned. No, sir. Their shields are still at full power. But they think they're not, because they've spent so long looking for patterns that they're seeing them everywhere. Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to let them defeat themselves. On the main screen, General Vex'thor stared in disbelief at his tactical display, which now showed nothing but an animated rainbow cat with the text mission failed successfully. General Vex'thor stood triumphant on his bridge, his scales gleaming with satisfaction. After days of humiliation, he'd finally cracked the humans' primitive code. Their civilian vessels were gathering for what they called a flash mob, clearly a coded term for their final defensive formation. The child thinks she can hide her strategy behind these juvenile terms, he announced to his command staff. But at last I understand. These viral challenges follow mathematical patterns, just like any other military strategy. On Earth's command bridge, Emma watched the Zar'kanian fleet reposition itself with barely contained glee. Sir, she addressed Admiral Chen, they've taken the bait. Permission to initiate Operation Party Crasher. Granted, Chen replied, fighting back a smile. And may whatever gods they believe in have mercy on their dignity. Emma opened a channel to the gathered civilian ships, thousands of them, from luxury yachts to mining vessels, all gathered as if to watch the coming battle. Let's show them how we party on Earth. The civilian fleet suddenly began moving in perfect synchronization, but not in any recognizable military formation. Instead, they started performing the Macarena, in space. You see, Vex'thor crowed. Another of their dance-based encryption patterns. Target their command ships before they can. He froze mid-sentence as the first mining vessel's hulls split apart, revealing state-of-the-art weapon systems hidden beneath fake plating. The luxury yacht's decorative fins transformed into plasma cannons. Every single civilian ship began metamorphosing like mechanical butterflies. Fun fact about Earth culture, Emma's voice came through on all frequencies. We really, really love transformation sequences. Robots in disguise, magical girl anime, you name it. Your analyst dismissed all those TV shows as meaningless entertainment. Big mistake. Huge. The transformed fleet now surrounded the Zar'kanian forces in a perfect sphere. But they didn't stop dancing. You know what else we love, Emma continued. Flash mobs. When a group of people seem to spontaneously break into synchronized performance. The key word being seem. Vex'thor watched in horror as his perfect tactical analysis crumbled. He had positioned his ships to counter traditional military formations, leaving them completely vulnerable to an attack choreographed like a viral dance video. This is beneath the dignity of warfare, he roared. Maybe, Emma agreed. But you know what's really beneath your dignity? The fact that humanity's greatest military victory is about to be set to Baby Shark. The space around the Zar'kanian fleet filled with the infamous melody as Earth's transformed ships began their final attack run. Each wave of ships attacked in perfect rhythm with the song, their movements coordinated not by military precision, but by the beat of the music. Do the speakers blasted as plasma torpedoes struck with devastating accuracy. Vex'thor, the undefeated general of 1,000 worlds, could only watch as his fleet was systematically dismantled by tactics that would be studied and maimed about for centuries to come. By the way, Emma added as the last Zar'kanian ship powered down its weapons, this whole battle. It's already trending on space Twitter. Outwitted Vex'thor is the #1 hashtag in the galaxy. As his first officer presented the surrender documents, Vex'thor had only one question: what even are you humans? Emma's response was simple: we're what happens when you let teenagers run your military strategy. Now, smile for the victory selfie.